Federal law authorities are now leading the investigation into 3 arsons that have targeted Jewish centers in both Arlington and Needham. We'll tell you where the case stands now. And a major turnout at Town Hall this week in support of the victims of those arsons. A strong show of unity and solidarity that there is no way Arlington is going to be bullied by blatant ignorance. And Arlington has a strange visitor walking its streets, drawing a crowd of curiosity seekers. He doesn't manage to reunite with Christopher Robin, but he does find a new home. This is ACMi News.
Federal prosecutors are now leading the investigation into 3 arsons, 2 in Arlington, 1 in Needham. Hello, I'm Carla Dorado.
And I'm Paul Werlin. All 3 targets are members of the Jewish community. The scene last week on Lake Street where the Center for Jewish Life was hit by an arsonist twice in the same place 5 days apart. A Jewish center in Needham was also hit by arsonists. All 3 are now considered hate crimes. We have a complete wrap-up of these cases tonight, starting with a news conference last week after the Arlington Center was vandalized a second time. Avi Bucket, a rabbi and director of the Center for Jewish Life, says not only was this a place of worship that was disrupted, this is also his home where he resides with his wife, Luna, and children.
I would like as well to thank, I'm talking now to the Arlington community, the Belmont community, and of the communities of the wider area, and especially in the Jewish communities, the outpouring of support and the outpouring of love that they have shown us in this past week has just been overwhelming, has been unbelievable, and has helped us to weather whatever storm is coming our way.
There is an important need for this investigation to be concluded quickly, to restore a sense of safety and security amongst the community. Because when there is an attack on any member of the Jewish community, whether it's here or outside of these 2 towns, outside of the state, the Jewish community stands together.
The FBI and U.S. Attorney's Office will not comment on the progress of the case, only to say the investigation is progressing.
In an exclusive on-cam interview with ACMi's Jeff Barn, Rabbi Bucket says his home is his sanctuary, and these hate crimes do nothing but strengthen his family and his community, the exact opposite of what these senseless acts were meant to accomplish.
This is the fire damage federal and state authorities say was caused by a suspect or suspects to the Center for Jewish Life and the home to the Bucket family at 129 Lake Street. Police say the home was vandalized Saturday, May 11th, and again in the very same place Thursday, May the 16th. The state fire marshal offered a $5,000 reward for any information leading to an arrest, and the Anti-Defamation League announced an additional $15,000 on top of that. All this while anti-hate signs dot this close-knit community, sending a very clear message that damage like this targeting a specific race or religion is an assault on us all and actually fortifies this neighborhood.
There's no such thing as a setback that just remains a setback. A setback, one door closes and many doors open, and that's what I'm learning this week. How, our community has grown tremendously over the past week, and just people coming to support, people coming to say, how could we do better? What else could we do? And this is what I teach the community: one mitzvah, one good deed leads to another good deed, and it just more light just dispels darkness, and we just got to keep on adding light. If we keep on adding light, before we know it, it'll be a community full of and a world filled with love and godliness.
A neighbor of Rabbi Bucket caught this person on surveillance video at about the same time Bucket's home was on fire the first time and gave it to Arlington police to help in their investigation. Bucket says it's gestures like this that gives him faith that this neighborhood will overcome any hate that may come its way.
You go up and down the street on Lake Street, you have these no hate signs and these great, just levels of support over the weekend. On Shabbat, on the Sabbath, we had services here at the Center for Jewish Life, and we had a rabbi's message where we invited Jews, non-Jews, and neighbors, anyone who would like to come and participate and share with each other our unity, our love for one another. Because I heard a good line from a song, there's more than us than there is of them, or something like that. That's it, and then that's what came out over the weekend. It was amazing.
Bucket says if the arsonist was trying to marginalize his home and hearth, he or she failed miserably.
This person, whoever this person is obviously not well, and obviously has ideas that he or she were educated in that are wrong, that are false, and just leads to hatred, just leads to exclusion of others. And I would tell anybody, you know, you could be educated the right way. There are people that could tell you. You want to know about Judaism? Come ask somebody who's Jewish what Judaism is about history. You want to know about Christianity? Go study, go learn. It's everything's open. There's no excuse anymore to be a bigot. There's no excuse anymore to be a hateful person. There's no excuse anymore to be ignorant.
Arlington police had dispatched a full-time police officer to patrol this area until further notice. Meantime, the book could say they have committed their entire lives to spreading the word of light and love throughout this community and surrounding neighborhoods. And these cases certainly are not going to deter them in their efforts to spread that word. On the contrary, they say they'll be doubling down now on their efforts to creating a better world for this generation and making a better world for future generations to come. Reporting for ACMi News, I'm Jeff Barnes.
Continuing our coverage on this story now, an overflow crowd of nearly 600 people at Town Hall this week, this just days after the arsons. It was an overwhelming show of unity for Rabbi Bucket and his family. And it sent a powerful signal to the perpetrators that Arlington will not be intimidated.
The Love Lives Here demonstration began outside at the Arlington Town Hall Garden. There were sign-making stations, hundreds of candles, and resources from the Anti-Defamation League on just how to fight back against meaningless acts of bias and discrimination.
It really has an incredible impact on the community. My daughter was a student at the Center for Jewish Life, and so just to imagine, you know, her safety compromised and all these other people, I'd like to convey to whoever does this that it's not funny, and also it really has an impact on the community in a negative way.
But just as the demonstration began, the skies opened up, as did the doors to Town Hall. Nothing, no rain, was going to deter these people from showing their support for anyone who becomes the target of gross bigotry. Hundreds of people filled the hall. It was standing room only.
I just wanted to start off by saying how thankful I am for the Arlington Police Department during this difficult time. Swift action, seriousness, and persistence with which you are handling the issue before us.
This crowd felt empowered to take action against any kind of shameless crime that often leads to violence. They were there to make sure whoever did this will not in any way scare them, and that Arlington is in no way defined by any misguided act of hatred.
Because we need to rally the community around these folks that are being harmed by what's happened. They need to know the community stands by them, and whoever is perpetrating these acts needs to know that the community is not going to stand for it, and that we stand in solidarity with Rabbi Avi and his family.
Bucket tells ACMi News he'd like to thank Arlington Police for their outstanding work. He says outrageous acts like this can always bring out the best in a community, and in this case, it's no different in Arlington.
On to other news now. As we told you last week, it appears as though an old 5 and dime will be replaced by many rounds of 7 and 7s. It appears a new restaurant and tavern will soon be opening in the Heights in what was formerly the home of Balak's 5 and 10 on Mass Ave. Town leaders say Jim O'Rourke, operator of the First House Pub in Winchester, is leasing the building to open the Heights Club. It's currently in the permit stage. Town manager Adam Chapdelaine told ACMi News that the idea was born from a grassroots effort to revitalize the Heights.
Well, I should say what I heard is the person who's going to be opening it up went to many of these Heights community meetings, and from those meetings and hearing about the passionate desire for such a use, said, you know what, I can probably make a business work here. So I think it is actually a credit to community organizing and community events, because you can actually shift what people decide to do in the business district.
The tavern is expected to have an extensive menu of appetizers, sandwiches, and other American fare. No word on when the pub will open.
Town meeting in Arlington is over for the year. It went to 8 sessions, going through 13 articles and ending before 10 o'clock on May 15th. One issue discussed is the future of community access television. In Arlington's case, ACMi. Companion articles 47 and 48 address payments from the 3 cable firms in Arlington supporting our studio. They are Comcast, Verizon, and RCN, and the budget currently totals nearly $800,000. For several years, the cables had paid franchise fees to ACMi to stay in business, so we can continue providing you with hyper-local television, public education, and government channels, or PEG access. But the Federal Communications Commission is moving toward adopting a new rule that could severely reduce the franchise fees and gut funding for public, educational, and governmental channels.
So what Article 47 is requesting is the establishment of a special revenue fund known as the PEG Access and Cable Related Fund to serve as the place where these monies will go into and then be expended out of. And then we can, certainly the FinCom can talk about Article 48, but that's the actual appropriation of operating and capital expenses for ACMi as they again have used every year for their budget, but now these funds are to run through town meeting per state regulation.
I am pleased to advise that your select board has entered the fray by sending a strong letter to the FCC opposing this rule during the public comment period. The very viability of stations like ACMi is in jeopardy, and we should all be aware of it.
We'll keep you posted on what the FCC intends to do. Meantime, both articles in town meeting were overwhelmingly supported.
In a marathon 4-hour-plus meeting this week, the Select Board approved 2 applications for marijuana stores in Arlington. Apothca, which seeks to relocate to 1386 Mass Avenue from its current location on Water Street, was approved, as was Escar LLC, which plans to open on Broadway in East Arlington. The board heard from 2 other applicants, both with eyes on Mass Ave locations. Apothca is the only shop that would be allowed in the Heights due to the required 2,000-foot distance between stores, and Escar would be on the other side of town.
Obviously, we want to create an experience for the town. We're not going to be the first store. There's already several stores pending, so we had to be competitive. And so we had to make sure that we're not just here because we're the only people with the license. We have to make sure that that's an experience that's going to draw people. And so 23 Broadway. So look, where are we located? So we are the only person that picked the other side of town. It is right on the Somerville border. We actually picked that location because it's situated right on the Somerville border. It's actually one of the furthest properties away from schools.
I think Arlington is going to be a very interesting store. I think that the town is very much for this use. The surrounding communities have limited access, and so far we've had a great experience here. I think that it's partially the fact that we'll be able to either produce or source as much inventory as we need to. When we're talking about a co-located medical and adult use, I've made some wholesale sales to other people in my position, primarily because I know that amongst us, where we're producing our own supply, we're all going to be helping each other to make sure that we all have a good mix of inventory.
The town permits 3 licenses each for medical and recreational marijuana shops.
Arlington's International Film Festival has chosen a winner for its 9th annual AIFF poster contest. And here it is. A lively array of film strips, ticket stubs, and vintage cameras celebrating the magic of film all over the world. This explosion of vibrant color is the work of Biana Bova, a digital illustrator who's graduating from the Massachusetts College of Art and Design this month. Bova received a cash prize of $500 on May the 10th at an Arlington Center for the Arts reception. AIFF co-founder Alberto Guzman says the poster perfectly captures all the elements of the film and its power to bring artists and moviegoers together through creative imagination. For 8 years now, the festival has featured films from all walks of life and from all over the world. This year's Arlington Film Festival will be held November 7th through the 10th at the Capitol Theater.
Now, coming up on the other side of the break.
Well, this guy bears a resemblance to Paddington, Yogi, maybe even Teddy. He bear down on the town of Arlington. You can see it for yourself. We're not bearing false witness.
Now, bear in mind there's a good ending to this story, but he had to bear the brunt of some tranquilizers to bring him back to his rural hometown. How did he bear it? Okay, we're done. We'll let you know next, and that and more when we come back, so bear with us.
I'm Jen Burns.
And I'm Jonathan Morbedo.
And we're part of the Arlington, Massachusetts FidoFest committee.
We're looking for submissions for next year of 2019's FidoFest, and you can submit your videos at acmi.tv/FidoFest.
So mark your calendars. We're going to be there at on August 3rd,
Which is a Saturday,
and the rain date is August 4th. So we hope to see you there.
Can't wait.
Enjoy the show.
Well, it's not exactly the 100-acre wood. As a matter of fact, it's far from it.
Unless you've been hibernating lately, a black bear wandered into the town of Arlington last week. No word if it was looking for honey, but if it was looking for a crowd to entertain, it found one.
ACMi's Brenda Mahoney reports, like Winnie the Pooh, this creature was feeling a bit too sociable.
It's not every day you think you're going to wake up to a bear in your neighborhood, especially a densely packed suburban one like this in Arlington. But that's exactly what happened to this reporter and other residents first thing in the morning, Friday, May 17th.
We heard the helicopters this morning is what got everybody's attention. And then we heard that we were up looking, and then we heard that they had them up in the tree earlier. So.
How long have you lived in the area?
15 years.
You ever heard of a bear?
No, a lot of things, but not a bear.
The bear making a smart move up into this tree on Pawnee Drive. After more than an hour on the run in the Morningside Drive area, the crowd's following, keeping a safe distance, as a Division of Fisheries and Wildlife expert shot him twice with a tranquilizer gun, and along with police, fire, media, and everyone else, waited. And then, the moment. The roughly 140-pound 3-year-old climbing down on his own. The best possible scenario, said the state's black bear biologist, who thinks he simply hopped Route 95 following a stream or path and then got stuck here.
Went as well as possible. The fact that he came down on his own was ideal. It wasn't that he was doing anything wrong that we did this. It's simply that he doesn't really have a way that he can get out safely, safe for him or safe for the public, where he's not going to be involved in a vehicle collision.
The black bear population in New England is way up over the years, but I'm very surprised that we'd find one in such an urban area. They got them down safely and they'll be released into the wild. So.
What looked like a nice bear comfy in his tree was treated as a serious threat. Police swiftly responding and alerting residents with a reverse 911 call and keeping nearby Stratton Elementary School students at home until all was clear.
There's never, you can never plan for a bear to arrive in your community, but they do follow the protocol that's in place. Although there may not have been specific training for bear capture in Arlington, our staff here are trained in responding to any type of emergency.
Mike, when did the moment turn from serious to light?
Once the bear was actually on the floor and asleep, and then you realised that they weren't going to have to do anything horrible. Because, obviously the thought is that, with all those kids around and everything, if the bear's awake when it comes down and it's angry, and they're all there with guns, so it could have been horrible. But the bear was asleep, so fantastic outcome.
And now, a tale to tell for these school kids and families. Dad Mike Hendy's bearhead costume unexpectedly taking on new meaning.
He ran a 5K in it at the weekend, so we were joking that he was the bear loose in the neighbourhood.
Oh, is this what brought the bear?
That's what brought the bear up, yeah. I think the bear may have been looking for one of its relations and heard the story. So.
Brenda Mahoney, ACMi News.
All's well that ends well. Police say the woozy bear was taken by pickup truck to a state forest in western Massachusetts. They say the bear appears to be about 3 years old and weighs nearly 150 pounds.
What's happening at Arlington High School now that school's nearly finished for the summer?
Let's go to Studio B to Chandler Betts with a look at this week's Ponderscope.
Welcome to the Ponderscope, your Arlington High School news, updates, and more. Impact testing will be held on May 29th, June 3rd, June 4th, and June 13th for fall athletes. Impact testing is required to participate in Arlington High School sports, and the test lasts 2 years. Register today for a session on Family ID. All current school year student Charlie cards will deactivate at midnight on August 31st, 2019. Funds will not be transferred over to the next school year, so please use up all value down to zero. The Arlington High Speech and Debate Team is hosting an intramural tournament on Friday, May 31st from 6 to 8 p.m. There will be poetry, speech, and debate offered, as well as concessions for dinner. 26 different teachers will be offering extra credit for participation. Entry is $5 and walk-ins are welcome. Attention all juniors, believe it or not, it is time to start thinking about your senior year. At the end of this year, throughout the summer, and during the start of next year, there will be multiple opportunities to have your senior portrait taken at school. The senior portraits taken by Prestige are what we use in the yearbook. You will get a card in the mail that looks like a postcard. This is not junk mail. Do not throw it away. It has important information about your appointment and dress code for portraits. The first round of appointments is at the end of May. Be on the lookout. I'm Chandler Betts, and this has been the Ponderscope.
How are the Spy Ponders gearing up for the summer season? And another exclusive interview with one of the Bay State's greatest runners.
Let's go back to Studio B, where our Nick Antonakis is standing by.
Hello Arlington sports lovers, and welcome to another edition of your ACMi Sports Update. The spring tournament season is right around the corner. Many of our young athletes are starting to make the cut. Boys tennis has locked their place within the tournament for the 7th year in a row after defeating Wakefield 5-0. Taking a look over at the track, Ryan Oosting took home an 800-meter run win for Arlington at Middlesex League Championships, with a time of 1 minute and 55.21 seconds. Arlington finished 4th behind Lexington, Reading, and Wakefield. ACMi News Director Jeff Barn met with Oosting at his soon-to-be alma mater, Arlington High School, to talk about the next chapter of his life at Stanford University.
Everyone's thinking, you're one of the best runners in the state, if not the best runner in the state. What about the Olympic Games? Do you have your sights set that high?
Yeah. Well, now that I've represented the Netherlands internationally, the Olympics is like the next logical step. And it just depends on how I progress and how things go next year and the next 4 years and potentially after that. It might be a lot to ask for 2020, but 2024 seems like a fairly ideal Olympic year.
And how would you be training for that? Anything different, or you just be the same regiment you've been using the whole time, something you depend on?
Yep, so I'm changing coaches, obviously, because I'm changing schools. But I trust my coaches, both here and at Stanford, and I know that they know what's best for me and can help me, maybe more than I can help myself, because they know the sport better than I do. But, I trust them, and I'm not going to change anything. You just have to run fast enough to get an Olympic. You have to run a certain time, and then after that, it's up to the country to decide.
You can see more of Jeff's interview with Ryan Oosting next week. But now, coming up in next week's matchups. On Tuesday, May 28th, boys lacrosse goes up against Bromfield at 4 p.m. Thursday, May 30th, you can find girls tennis match up against Newton South at 3:45. And on Friday, catch boys baseball go against town rival Arlington Catholic at 4 p.m. From ACMi Sports at Studio B, I'm Nick Antonakis. Back to you at Studio A.
And of course, stay with us for all your latest news and sports updates. That'll do it for us here in Studio A. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Paul Werlein.
And I'm Carla Dorado. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
You can always check out our latest segments and newscasts on the web at acmi.tv/news. And don't forget to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at ACMi News. If you have any news tips for us, or you wish to become a citizen journalist, we'd love to hear from you. Email us at news@acmi.tv or stop by our Studio A at 85 Park Avenue.